What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham, G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the April 9th, 2022 edition of Talking Smack. The big post-WrestleMania SmackDown edition of Talking Smack. I actually enjoyed SmackDown from Friday. My full audio review is now available here on the channel from yesterday, so check that out if you haven't already. So we opened the show, Matt Camp, Jackie Redmond breaking down the closing segment from SmackDown that saw Shinsuke Nakamura confront Roman Reigns, lay him out, and Roman Reigns lay out Shinsuke Nakamura with the rest of the bloodline, and that was about it. So that was the only mention of that closing segment on this show. They immediately transition into the Ronda and Charlotte stuff. We hear from Charlotte on this show. I literally don't think, and I'll get to my other notes in a second, I don't think they made any other mention of the Usos unification talk or Roman laying out Shinsuke Nakamura, which was, to me, one of the bigger things coming out of the episode, setting up Roman's next challenger. And since Roman is the biggest star in the entire company, you would think they would talk more about that and less about Madcap Moss turning on Happy Corbin like anyone gives a fuck. I mean, honestly, that angle was a bit better than I thought it would be, but we'll get into that. So, that was a little weird. So anyway, Matt Camp talks about how Ronda Rousey, with that I Quit match at Backlash, wants to embarrass Charlotte Flair. They then transition into the Charlotte Flair interview backstage with Kayla Braxton, where Kayla makes it official. You probably saw it on social media on Saturday. But Kayla officially announces that it will be Charlotte and Ronda one more time at WrestleMania Backlash for the SmackDown Women's Championship in an I Quit match. Charlotte reiterates that she didn't tap and she didn't lose at WrestleMania. She calls herself a smart worker and that she can beat Ronda in anything, whether it be chess, checkers, whatever, a straight-up match. She will beat her in whatever she challenges her to. And she doesn't quit either. And come Backlash, she's going to make Ronda Rousey bow down to the Queen. Peter Rosenberg is the special guest analyst for this episode, and he doesn't think that Ronda can do it. He doesn't think Ronda can force Charlotte to say, I quit. Matt Camp says, well, Charlotte did tap. We all saw it at WrestleMania. Rosenberg says, listen, the ifs, the ands, and the buts don't matter. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that Charlotte won, and he is right. I mean, Ronda did get Charlotte to tap, but it's not like she won by submission. The referee wasn't looking, so I could see where Rosenberg is coming from when he says that. And then he says that Charlotte should get the recognition that she deserves. They then recap the Gunther debut, and Matt Camp says it probably won't be that long before he holds gold in WWE. I would hope so. They also transition into Raquel Rodriguez, formerly known as Raquel Gonzalez from NXT. Gunther, obviously formerly known as Walter, which I'll still call him from time to time. Matt Camp says that she's coming off she's coming off of multiple NXT championship reigns. As NXT Women's Champion, she had a dominant reign last year, 2 NXT Women's Tag Team title reigns, and the way that he's talking about her and the way that Jackie, responds makes it seem like Jackie has no fucking clue who Gunther and Raquel Rodriguez are. I know she's only been here for a couple of months, but it's pretty clear, I mean, unless she was just really oh, wow, that's impressive, and it doesn't seem like she watches the product. It really only seems like she watches what she has to for Raw and SmackDown and has no idea what the fuck is going on in NXT. To her credit, NXT 2.0 really isn't all that good most weeks. The regular television show, that is, so I can't say I blame her, but I just thought that was interesting. We hear actually backstage from Raquel with Sarah Schreiber, I believe, or maybe it was Kayla Braxton, I don't remember. But Raquel said that she'd been working towards this for a very long time. Her father was proud of her, and she's looking forward to mixing it up with the rest of the roster, whether it be a Sasha Banks or Bianca Belair. And the cool thing with Raquel is that a lot of the people on the roster currently, she has never faced before. She has history with Shotzi from NXT, and Shotzi hasn't barely been seen on the show in months. But she's never faced off with Sasha before, or with, Bianca Belair. I think actually the same night that Raquel debuted in NXT, maybe they had a match in NXT, and I just don't remember, Bianca and Raquel that is, but years and years ago. But Raquel debuted or re-debuted in NXT the same night that Bianca had one of her final matches in NXT 2 years ago, so that would be a fresh feud. And I mean, I'm saying Bianca, what the fuck am I talking about? Bianca's on Raw, she's the Raw Women's Champion. I'm still thinking about pre-draft. Naomi, she has even less history with, because Naomi's never really been in this current NXT, and Raquel's never been in the main roster, so that'd be a fresh feud as well. Anyway, so they move on to, let's see, and Matt Camp also mentions that she's made great leaps and bounds in recent years, which I agree with. Raquel's come a long way. They then transition into Sasha Banks versus Liv Morgan, the match they had on Friday. A very good match, that won by Liv Morgan. They also replay Happy Talk, where Madcap Moss turned on Happy Corbin. We hear backstage from Madcap Moss, and he says that, he can take the blame if he needs to, but the loss at WrestleMania is on Corbin. He lost at WrestleMania, not him. It was Moss who actually won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal 2 days earlier on SmackDown. So he says what happens next to Corbin is on Corbin. And he mentions how the crowd got behind him and they inspired him, and he plans to keep that momentum going. He plans to keep that momentum going, and he also mentions that Corbin should be very worried. Rosenberg says that Moss is a force to be reckoned with, which I kind of laughed at, no pun intended. But, listen, if they can push the guy and he can get over, as he showed on Friday, then more power to him. I don't see that happening, but I would love to see a new star be made. So hopefully that turns out to be the case, but time will tell. They also talked about how Morgan's win over Sasha Banks is a major confidence booster, major momentum booster going into Monday's WWE Women's Tag Team title match with herself and Rhea Ripley against Sasha Banks and Naomi. Rosenberg says that Banks and Naomi just have that natural gelling as a team, whereas Ripley and Morgan may not be going in the same direction together. Matt Camp also praises the current champs' momentum, that being Sasha and Naomi, and expects them to retain on Monday. And Rosenberg also says that they have a spark to them. So they spend a lot of time praising Sasha and Naomi, and they do make a great team. I give them a lot of credit in that regard. And then to close out here, Rosenberg lost all credibility with me at this point when he said that he's always excited for Jinder Mahal to be in a big spot, and that the Intercontinental Championship is the perfect goal for him right now. I could not give two fucks about Jinder. Seems like a decent guy. I've interviewed him before in person, but I couldn't give two shits about the guy. And the Intercontinental Championship means nothing, so him going for it, maybe even winning it, also means nothing. So honestly, why the fuck not? Have Ricochet retain. I need to have every former Intercontinental Champion sign my Intercontinental title belt, and I do not want Jinder to be one of those people to sign it. But still, it should be a match. I almost said a great match, but it's going to be a match, and we'll see how it goes next Friday on SmackDown. So thank you guys for checking out this edition, my review of Talking Smack for this week. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And just have a great rest of the weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.